Alrighty, so we're back with the third video on the series Perseverance. It is currently right now 3:25 a.m. in the morning, and so when I tell you, when I was trying to sleep, and I'm like, man, I just can't sleep. Like I gotta get this. Like I gotta share this to you guys, because in my head I'm like, there's people that are out there right now, maybe even you guys are listening, that are like really going through tough times, and I want to be able to, if I can, encourage you guys with what I'm going to share today. So I talked about how this is like part two of like, from, and we'll be kind of piggybacking off of, or starting from where we ended in the last video. But I was like, man, like I kind of want to park a little bit, even further, even more, on just like what happened during this time of my life that I'm gonna share. And it honestly was the toughest time of my life. And so I think I may be able to get it all done in this, but don't be surprised if you see me, be like, all right, we're gonna have to do a third video. So just wanted to say that we might have to. But yeah, really appreciate you guys just watching the first video, and just some of the feedback that I've gotten, whether it's in person, which are just some of my friends or my roommates or my family members, or just I was talking to Michael Burns yesterday, for some of you guys that know him, and him just giving me some tips and just encourage me as well, because I've been wanting to do this for a really long time, but now I'm finally doing it. So I just appreciate the support. If you guys share this with people that you think could encourage them, that would be great. So, all right, let's get back into it. Let's buckle up, and yeah, let's get ready. So, man, all right. So the end of I gotta go a little bit back. So I kind of ended where I was like, okay, what did I do when I was working for the real estate investment firm? Like, um, you know, would I quit? Like, how would I go about that? So I actually need to go back a little bit. And I love that I did stop, because it allowed me to kind of like think and ponder and realize like, oh my gosh, like there's some things that I really need to share, that like were really hard, that is critical to my story, and especially the last 5 years. So, jumping a little bit back to my internship, so like right before I got the real estate investment firm job, and so I I had gotten like a big project, and I was waiting for like the CEO of like the marketing company to finally give me this, a big project that was my own, and it was kind of like my time to be like, okay, wow, like, I can be an asset to the company. And I had already done some like other great stuff like with the company during my internship, but it was more of me helping out the team. There wasn't really me taking ownership of a project. And so finally he brought me in. He's like, hey, this is a project I want you to do. And I was so excited. And so I'm like, all right, like sounds good. And I go to my desk and I'm pumped. And so this is, I just want to let you guys know, like, I'm going to be sharing a lot of vulnerable stuff, and just really letting you guys just see me, just all the icky stuff, all the things that I had to go through, because especially for me, I'm like, there's no way you guys are going to want to be open, or for people that I have on this podcast that are going to want to be open, if I'm not open first, to set things up. And so, yeah, just to give you a little heads up. But anyways, yeah, so I get to my desk, and I'm starting to work on this project and kind of figuring out how to go about it. And I get a text from my dad, and the text reads, "Your mom just had a heart attack." And so immediately I'm kind of like neither of my parents have ever been like really sick throughout my life, so I've never had to like deal with that. And I've lost people in the past, but never a family member. And so I'm like, and so I see the text, and I just everything just like stopped. Like it felt like like it just felt like the world just stopped. And I'm just like, wait, what in the world? And so in my head I'm like, okay, well, maybe she's stable, like maybe like she had a heart attack, but like she's fine now. And so so immediately I call up my dad. And when you talk to your like your parents are the ones that are like supposed to kind of give you that hope, right? Especially your dad, like or and so like growing up, like anytime like something bad would happen, or anytime like there was doubt, like my dad would always bring hope. You could hear it in his voice, hear the hope in his voice, hear his encouragement. And this was honestly the first time I've ever heard my dad just like I knew it was bad. And he was so quiet, and I could feel that he was in shock. And so I'm like, Dad, like, is she okay? Like what did it happen earlier? And he's like, Son, it just happened. They're rolling her into the hospital right now. And like his voice just got quieter and quieter. And he's like, Son, I don't know if she's gonna make it. And like to hear my dad like say that, he's like, I'm gonna have to get back to you. And so he ends the call, and I was just stunned, and I didn't know what to do because they're in Indiana, so and I'm in Chicago at the time, so I'm 3.5, 4 hours since I'm downtown away from them. And uh, I was just like, my goodness, like what do I do? And to give a little bit more preference on even my relationship with my mom, uh, my relationship with my mom now is the best it's ever been. But I'd be lying and not being truthful if I said that there were years, many years, from my young age all the way up until college, that her and I just didn't have the best relationship. My dad and I, we click. We click on all cylinders. So like I'm literally like the younger version of him. And so, but with my mom, it's definitely taken a lot more work, and we've had a lot of disagreements, just disconnect, like. And I think sometimes that happens a lot, like they're like with sons and their moms, right? Like it's like harder for just some reason. We just, and I know like women think differently than men, right? Like we all know that. um but there's something that like I've talked to younger kids as well, and other people, other guys, and it's like, yeah, I'm real close to my dad, but I'm not as close with my mom. And like, I know it's sometimes switched. Like sometimes the guys are closer to their mom than their dad, but um, and so it was her and I would get into disagreements. We'd get into arguments, and it was really yeah, it just wasn't the best relationship. And so even leading up to this, we had gotten better, but it still wasn't where I needed to be. And my first thought, literally, when I got off the phone with my dad, I was like, my gosh, like what was the last conversation with my mom like? Like, did I honor my mom by our last conversation? Or was our last conversation a disagreement? Like, is she still hurt? And all these things are going through my mind. I was like, my goodness, like, for a woman that carried me for months on end, for a woman that, you know, nursed me and took care of me and loved me unconditionally. And for so many years I just treated her not with the honor. Like the Bible says, like, honor your father and mother. Like I truly was not living that out. And for me, for the first thought to be that, I was just like disgusted with myself, because now I was faced with this fear of losing my mom, and then thinking the last, like going about life realizing, like, man, the last memories of my mom that my mom had of me was like an argument that we had, or disagreement. And usually it was over, like we would just argue about stuff that we could definitely put to the side and not worry about. And so I'm just like broken on so many different levels. And so I remember going to uh so in the John Hancock Center, like each level has many different like companies within in it, and so shared space. And so there's a really nice like kitchen area that we had. And so I go in there, and I immediately call up my best friend Gates, and I mentioned him in the last video. He was grew up with him, my first roommate out of to get into college and everything, and so I remember I called him up, and usually it's all like, hey, what's up, man, how you doing? And this one was like I literally, he was like, hey, what's up, Steve? And I couldn't get a word out. And like you think about those movies where like, you know, someone like calls someone, or like, or there's like a scary scene and they like call, and they're just speechless, they can't get anything out, and you're like, like, does that really would that really happen? Like, come on, you'd be able to get something out. And I on like I my whole body wanted to speak, and I just couldn't speak because I was in such shock of what was going on. And so to let you know what happened to my mom, like her, so she was healthy as can be. And then her, I can't remember exactly like which artery was which, but her left artery was 100% clogged, and her right artery was 80% clogged. And so I call, you know, and so Gates is like, hey, like, yo, what's up? And I'm like, and I'm just like, come on, Steve, just get it out, get it out. And like, part of me knew like also why I couldn't get it out is I knew the second that I would say like even the word mom, I would just lose it. And I didn't want like a bunch of people. I didn't want to cause a big scene or anything. And I'm literally like hunched over, looking out the window, and I have the phone, and I'm like trying to hide like my entire face from anyone that walks in. And so finally I get out the words like, my mom had a heart attack. And so my mom's like a mom to Gates as well. Like our families are close. And so and then I just, the second that I got it out, I just started bawling my eyes out. And I, you know, it was just one of those things where, you know, I can only imagine being on his end. I'm trying to be like, trying to what, you know, like, what do you say? Right? What do you say? And I honestly don't remember if he said anything or not. I was just so just, yeah, just in the moment. And so finally, yeah, I kind of like got it all out to him, and I went told my manager Dominique. She is absolutely amazing. Hope she's doing well. Let her know. They allowed me to just pack my bags. I went back to my house, packed all my stuff up, and drove straight to Indiana. And so I get there, and they're not allowing people to see my mom. And you know, I was just like, uh, yeah, I was just like, man, like, why? If anyone knows my mom, and for some of you that are on this podcast, or most of you on this podcast, at least this stage in the game, you probably know my mom. And if you don't, um, she is one of the hardest working people. She is one of the most loving people. She's one of the people like, she is such an inspiration, not just to me, but honestly anyone that she comes into contact with. And she just has this like like, I don't know, just light about her when she comes and she speaks, and you know it's genuine. You know that she cares for you, even if she doesn't really know you or not. Um, and so yeah, the first night wasn't able to see her. No one was able to see her except for like I believe my dad, maybe not even him, honestly. And then the next day, they were allowing like one person in or something like that. And so I remember going in, and seeing my mom so fragile, and so just like she just looked sick, broke my heart. And I'm like, man, like even thinking about it right now, I'm just like, oh, like I just hate like thinking about my mom that way, because there's nothing like leaving the house, spreading your wings, and you're doing your own thing, and your mom's like, uh, you know, the strong-willed, and then coming back and then seeing her like basically on her deathbed. And so you know, I remember looking at her, and she like looked up at me, and she like kind of, she was like, come here, you know. And there's like a picture of me. I can try to find it, I can't remember. But and you know, I kind of like gave her a kiss on the forehead, and so she she was smiling, and it was good to see, just that little bit of smile. And so I just stayed there, and she was just resting, and I'm having this moment though, and I'm sitting there, and the longer that I sit there, and the longer that I'm looking, and now it started to these thoughts and feelings towards just the situation, towards God, really was kind of really started to build on my 3 hour drive to Indiana. But then it took a whole new leap once I saw my mom uh, in that way, and I'm just sitting in that chair, and I'm just my legs, just going up and down, and I'm just thinking, and I'm just like, man, God, like, why her? Like, she's given you so much. She's done so much for you. Why her? Like, why is she having to go through this? And then, and so I'm sitting there, and I'm just becoming, every time I look up at my mom, I just kept looking up, and she's just there, and she's sleeping, and got the, all hooked up to everything, and I just became more bitter and bitter and bitter. And then man, oh man, did my perspective change on everything because of her constant just love for God and love for people. What happened? So basically, like, she kind of wakes up, and she she's like really happy, and I'm like, man, I'm like, okay, I wonder why she's like so happy. She's like, son, she's like, don't worry. And I'm sitting here like trying to act like, like, no, 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 mom, like, don't worry, your son's got it together, when I know inside I really don't have it together. And she goes, no, son, seriously, don't worry. Whatever happens, I know it's in God's plan. And I'm, and hearing that, like, you're like, yeah, like, but God's plan can't be that, like, why would it be for you to pass away though? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then my mom's like, she goes, guess what? And I was like, what? And she's like, I reached out to the nurses, and they're just like, they're shocked by just like, my, just how quickly I'm already recovering. And when she said that, I was like, no way did you just have a heart attack. You can barely move, you can barely speak, and yet you're reaching out to people right now. You're spreading the love of God right now. You're loving up on these doctors and the nurses, and that got her so excited, and so I'm like, man, like, I got one. I was like, man, I got a lot of growing to do with my heart, for people, for the situations that come with just life stuff. And I looked at my mom, and I was just like, man, like, that woman right there, like, that's my hero. That's my hero. And I want to have a heart like hers, that even on her potential deathbed, she's going out loving those around her. She's going out leaving a legacy that is honorable, to those around her. And so, I was just like so shocked. So, anyways, kind of moving forward a little bit, um, she starts to get a little bit better, um, and so, like, some other things kind of happen with her health that were just like, like, man, again, like, why is this happening to her? And I was like, all right, like, okay, you know what? Like, no, like, I gotta have a heart like my mom. So I end up going uh, back to Chicago to go back to my internship, because I was long for a little bit. I was gone for a little bit, and basically it wasn't. Oh man, I don't remember how many months after, but let's just say this: a lot of my friends that I had moved to, that I had known when I moved to Chicago, had kind of, the church that I'm a part of, like, they had left the church, and they kind of gotten themselves in a lot of stuff, and it was like the worst time for like my best friends that I like knew, moving there, and that I had made or whatever, for them to kind of like all dip out, because during that time I'm going through a lot of mess, right? And their solutions are not the solutions that I would need, right? Their solutions are like weed or women or drinking and partying, and I'm like there's I know that's not what I need. I know that's not the way. I know that like maybe in my I know that that can maybe be a temporary like thing, but I was like that's not going to be sustainable. But it was difficult because it's like wow, like I don't really have many people here in Chicago at the moment that I can go to. And so it made things a lot more difficult, and there were mistakes made, right? And there was things, and I was like, man, battling with a battle that I'm like, man, I didn't think that I would have to battle with this. So as I'm battling with this, and my mom's like getting better and better, and she has one of those oh, is it called like a pacemaker or something like that? And she's like hooked up to a machine at home and moving very, very slowly. But everyone's gone. All right, so everyone's gone from the house, but my mom, and she's up in her room, and I believe she was like changing or something. And so all of a sudden, I get a call. Okay, I get a call from my dad. And at this point, I'm like tired of getting calls from my dad. Before I was like excited whenever I would get a call from my dad. But now I'm like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? So my dad calls me and he's like, son, please pray for your mom and just us here. I'm rushing home right now, but like five men just broke into the house and your mom's there hiding alone. And like, especially as like you got your dad as the man of the house, but then like I'm the firstborn, only man or only son, and like immediately I'm kind of like anger just feel just anger filled my heart and just rage. And part of it was at God, part of it was at the situation, part of it was that I wasn't able to be there for my mom again. I'm like my mom just recently had a heart attack, like, and now she has five, like literally they banged on the door a bunch of times to see if anyone was home. My mom thought it was uh like one of our friends within the church, and sometimes they just like to be funny and stuff. And so then she like kind of looks out her blind and she sees five men get out their car, and they're in all black, and they basically surround the house. And all of a sudden she hears this big like the window just like get smashed in, and they entered the house. And so she immediately is freaking out and she calls 911. And luckily there was like police that were near the neighborhood. So the second that she called and they got the dispatch and everything, you could hear the sirens. So the men like dipped out, and from what she kind of told us was like it was such a near miss. Like they came out and like turned the corner, and then the cops came in. And I remember just hearing that. I'm like, my poor mom. Like, my mom is going through so much. She has a heart attack, like, and she's going through all this, like, you know, um, whether it's surgery or whether it's different stuff, and just like the aftermath of everything. And now they break into the house, and she's like my thoughts of her fearing her life, like scared, like a movie, in the closet upstairs all alone. No one's there to protect her, and she can't even protect herself with her state. And she's sitting there curled up calling 911. And I was just I was filled with anger. I was sad, and I'm like, man, okay. And I remember just like calling up and making sure everything was good, and we ended up getting like a lot of security stuff for our house. But once again, and this is like in a span of like a few months. Like this is all just like boom, 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 boom. And like the saying, and it truly, like when you're a kid and you hear like the saying, when it rains it pours, you just kind of laugh it off, and it goes one ear and out the other. But like as you get older and you start kind of, you realize like when it rains it truly does pour. It's never just like one little thing, it's always like multiple things all at once. And you're just like, gosh, can I just catch my breath? Like I just want to catch my breath right now. So then what ends up happening is so we kind of go through we kind of go through a little bit of a time of just nothing crazy kind of going on, and it's just kind of refreshing. And so I literally had a thought. I had this thought. It was on a Friday, and I'm like, man, we're finally kind of getting through, like, finally having a break from all this mess. And obviously, we still are dealing with the aftermaths of things, but we're finally, like, I feel like we're kind of, our family is just getting through it. And like, let me tell you guys this. My mindset, like, with my internship and things in Chicago, like, I was just like so removed from everything. Like, I was still going to my internship, I was still doing, but like, I was not motivated. I was every day, like, I was just thinking about my family, my mom, like, just worrying. And when stuff like that happens, like, you truly do, it does really affect you. It does really mess with your mind. And so yeah, and so anyways, it was on a Friday that I'm like, wow, like, things are finally kind of getting together. And then not even 2 days later, um, I get a call from my mom, and I feel like I was on the call with somebody or a few people, and I don't know who it was, but I remember being on a call, and I get the call from my mom. My mom's like, call me ASAP. When your mom texts you, call her ASAP, you call her ASAP. So I called her, and she goes, hey, your friend Kristen, who was like my one of my best friends. She was like an older sister to me. And someone she took me to school almost every day during high school, my like freshman and sophomore year when I didn't have a car. She would call me this funny words or phrase, but stiff necked, because I was hard headed. And she would always call me, stiff necked. And but truly, I loved her. Our family, our families were close as well. And my mom, she goes, hey, your Kristen was killed in a car accident tonight. And my mom just started crying, and I was just like, no way, like, no way, no way did she get, like, is she dead? No way, like, is this, like, this kind of stuff continuing to happen? Like, like, just when I thought I was coming up for air, I was shoved right back down. And so I just couldn't believe it. And it was one of those, like, just I just was like, I don't even know what to do anymore, God. I was like, God, if there's a lesson, man, I just can't see it. Like, I can't see it. And I don't know what this means, but I hate it. I can't stand it. Like, I can't take more news like this. This is ripping me apart. Um and a few weeks later, I had to so travel back down to Indiana, and it had hit me. But there's another level of hitting when the funeral hits, and I had to carry her casket, and that's when it really hit me. I mean, I've lost friends. Like, friends have definitely died in the past. Friends that I was close with, friends that I knew, classmates. Whether it's due to, like, suicide, whether it's due to, I honestly, I would say I've probably lost of friends that I've known, probably around, I think it's up to like 11 or 12 now. My locker buddy all throughout high school was killed. And they're all different kind of deaths, whether it's like car accident, natural, or like natural deaths, or whether it's like due to, like, shooting, being killed in that kind of way, or gang related, or uh, or or suicide. And so, yeah, but having to carry the casket, and someone that, like, you just have all those memories just flashing back and forth, and realizing that you're carrying them, and they're in there, but they're lifeless. And, like, oh my gosh, like, I remember standing over the grave as they lowered her down. I just lost it. Like, I was just like this little kid, at 23 years old that like truly lost his sister. And I was just like, man, like God, I'm so tired. Like I can't. Like I'm so tired, God. Like and like look, I know for a fact that like I know that like I wasn't the only one going through all that mess. Like I know like many other people were going through it. And like her family, like, you know, losing their daughter, or losing, you know, their sister, and, you know, like seeing her younger sister, her crying, and like realizing like what was really actually going on, like that broke me as well. And and so I remember just like I remember going home, driving back to Chicago, and I'm like, it was probably the most empty drive I've ever felt, because I was driving home to like people, you know, that I just wasn't close with anyone. I didn't feel close to anyone that I was driving back home to here in Chicago. I you know with I just, you know, I knew that a lot of the friends I had, like I said, that I was close with, they were in a bunch of mess. Like I couldn't trust them. I couldn't trust them to lead me to a good spot, or to help me to make good decisions during a time where I very easily could make a lot of bad decisions, because of just my hurt and anger, and just being so distraught with like the whole situation. And so I remember just kind of getting back, and just kind of taking some time to myself. And I like, man, I look back now, I'm like, man, geez, those times, like I don't ever want to have like a time like that again. And like if I do, and I'll kind of get to this, like, you know, I'm like, all right, like sounds good, you know, I'm gonna glorify God. But during that time, I was really bitter towards God. I was really bitter towards just my life, and how just I'm like, man, like I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so now, as we get to just like when I got the real estate investment firm job. Oh my gosh, I was coming into that job with so much baggage and so much stuff on my mind. It was insane. And so whether or not they saw that or not, I may never know. But yeah, I was like, oh gosh, like, all right. And I was like, I was very determined, because like I've mentioned before, maybe in my one of my two videos prior, but I'm like when I set my mind to something, I go after it as hard as I can. But I was definitely kind of like, all right, like I'm just gonna go full force for this. But like my life right now, like I'm just kind of like up in the air. Like I don't really know what I'm doing. And what was cool about during that time frame though is I definitely started to like make new relationships here, that like of people that were going to direct my heart, and like direct me in the right direction, you know. And the Bible, you know, it says like bad company corrupts good character. And I was really surrounding myself with people that were going to help build my character and build it in a good positive way. And so that definitely helped me a ton. And I'll shout some of those people out, because they definitely did a lot of just helping me out. And it was funny, I wasn't really close to these guys, and these guys are Eric Stokes, I mentioned him, Donovan Lowry, uh, Tim Blakemore, um, Graham Rouse, Josiah Longenecker, Jonathan Lowry. I can keep going on and on. So if I don't say your name, like it's not because I'm like not like, oh, you didn't help out. But I literally went from like not really being close to any of those guys to like I stood up in Tim's wedding, I stood up in Donovan's wedding, I stood up in Eric's wedding, I stood up in Josiah's wedding. Um, Graham and Jonathan's will come. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry, guys. And yeah, it was awesome though. Like just having those guys, during a lot of that time. And but yeah, so I'm working for this real estate investment firm, and so this we're gonna kind of lead out of like that the dark time that I was just having. But I like I said, I started this off and I was like, I want to park there a little bit. I want you guys to like see just me at my rock bottom, me of just like going through just ridiculous stuff, and seeing my loved ones. I think like the thing that's hard is like, okay, when stuff is happening to you, that's really tough. But when stuff is happening again and again and again to like people that you love, that just makes things way much like more difficult, because you're like, man, especially when you're like, they don't deserve that. And then things that like you can't even control. That I think that like I'm someone, and maybe a lot of you guys are too, like I like to be able to control the situation that is in front of me, or I like to be able to make moves to be able uh to be successful, or to help guide whatever is in front of me. And so when I wasn't able to do that, with a lot of these things, like that was frustrating. And so I think, as I was kind of going through, kind of leading out of all that, I started to think, and I was like, man, like I can either look at all the stuff that's going on, and I can allow it to uh, break me. I can allow it to push me, and keep me down, and I can allow it to make me go to things that I shouldn't be going to. And then I was like, or I can push through this. I can and be a light for people that are going through very similar things, that are somehow going through even worse things. And I know that people do, way worse things than what I went through. And I would never wish what I went through on anyone, but I know that there's things that are even worse that people have to go through. And I'm like, if I can push through this, like at some point I'll be able to like share to people, like, you can do it, like God can help you do it. Like, surround yourself with people, like like even just in the working world, or just like in general, like surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you be a better you, or help you get through those tough times, not through drugs, not through alcohol, not through partying, but like truly helping you and to go about things the right way. And so I had that perspective, and I was like, okay, you know what? Like, all right, Steve, like you can get through this. And I then took me right back to my mom when she was in the hospital that one time, and she was like, she's, just the way that she was going about potentially the end of her life, of, what, I'm going to go out fighting. I'm going to go out like, glorifying God and loving all the people that are around me. Like, that's how I'm going to go out. And I was like, all right, like I got to have a heart like that. These are the kind of times that you get to work on yourself. You get to be a better you. You get to, showcase all the things that you've learned up until that point. That's what's so awesome about when we overcome things, when we persevere through things. And then we get to help others do the exact same thing. So I think I'm just going to stop here. And then I'm just going to do a part three, to all of this. So sorry for any of you that thought you were going to hear like what happened, like, did you quit your job, or what happened if, when you did quit your job, or whatever it is like that you were thinking. That's going to have to come in, video three. But I had to just like get this out. Like, I had to let you guys see what I went through, whether that's just to help you guys just know me more, see the person that like, the things that I had to struggle with, that maybe you're struggling with, or that you've had to go through. And yeah, I was talking to, like I said, I was talking to Michael Burns, and he's like, just be you on your podcast. Like, just be you. And I love that. Like, I don't want to come on here and try to be like somebody else. I don't want to come on here and be someone that I'm not. Like, I want to be on here and just be raw, like with what I say, and who I am, and just really point you guys in the right direction with being able to get through tough obstacles. Obviously, we're on a series of perseverance, but I want to do other series. I want to do series on confidence, building your confidence. My gosh, has that been difficult for me. I want to do a series on that. I want to I'm excited to announce that I will be having Eric Stokes on here, and I will be having some other people as well on this podcast. And I'm really excited because there's so many stories of people that have gone through similar things like what I shared during this video, or something different, and they'll be able to touch someone's lives. And I want to use this platform for people to share that. I want to use this platform for many different things, but really, when you come on this platform, you leave with encouragement. You leave with like, wow, that was a good time. Like, whether you feel like, oh, I just feel like I just like hung out with Steven, I felt like we had a good, I got to know him. Or whether it's like, wow, like I'm struggling right now, but like I left that like, okay, yeah, you know what? I can do this. Whatever that is, I want you coming to this podcast and leaving with something more than what you had coming into it. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. I'm, this is what I want to do. I'm excited to continue to do these kind of things and to put these podcasts out and to share my life, as my life continues to move forward, to share even more things that kind of happen and happen to me. So hope you guys, if you guys stay to the end, appreciate it. Love you guys. This is Tavachi Productions. Steven, I don't even know, I don't know where I was going with that, but like I said, this is Tavachi Productions. I hope you had a good time. Leave a comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. See you guys.